Okay, now he gets into the 8-way story. And so I'm going to just take a guess at this because I happen to know about these. All right, so the 8-way story is, anyone familiar with Lean Six Sigma? Okay, so the 8-way story looks something like this. We have an overproduction of rooms. There are more rooms than we have tenants that are currently there. Because of that, we have transportation. And transportation is all the items moving to make that room better, and then also when we do get a tenant, the luggage and whatnot that has to go to that room. Then you have an inventory. Well, what kind of inventory? We have an inventory of rooms. That means we have to manage this. We have to make sure nobody breaks in. We have to make sure that the plumbing doesn't start leaking in the middle, which could cause defects. You don't even know if there is a defect, right? I'm sure none of you guys have had some kind of situation where someone moved into your Airbnb 24 hours early and started making pancakes because there's a defect because you had inventory, right? You had more or less you had. So we have to manage these rooms now, make sure people aren't breaking in. There's overprocessing. What's the overprocessing? Well, when one was rented when one was completed, we could have immediately rented it, but we have a high screen standard, so we haven't. And so we have to do the overprocessing of the extra managing of what is going on. Again, keeping an extra eye out, making sure people aren't breaking in, making sure people don't steal things. This motel's in kind of a bad part of town. There was a motion. What was the motion? The motion was the human being had to move to clean all the rooms, to turn all the rooms, to turn all the units. Then there's the waiting. They're waiting on basically tenants to show up, and the wasted employee genius. The fact that Doug has to spend his time paying attention to these rooms instead of just doing some other more productive value. And then he would have given that story in front of everybody. Are we too busy to improve? This is an improvement he made. Let's see what his improvement was.
My improvement was I bought a bigger and better trash can to set out front so it don't look as bad as the last one did. It was all beat up, the lid was broke, everything else. So that was my improvement.
So you came up with an improvement. It doesn't quite meet my standards, but I'm not. We're going to slowly work towards that. It needs to become their idea that they came up with it. And so this is already a big improvement of what it was because it looked like a spray painted terrible trash can. All right, then we have a raving fan section. There are two types. Anyone read the book Raving Fans? Okay, it's like this big. I'll give it to you in a paragraph. You don't want anyone to think about the FI team as, oh yeah, they were a good customer, or they were good. I really liked them. Right? They were a cool team. No, you want to be like, woo! The FI team! I'm financially independent because Craig had a Instagram post that made me interested. Now I'm a house hacker. He's freaking awesome. I love him. Right, so that's Raving Fan section. Raving Fans, they're internal versus external. You want your customers to be raving fans of you. Two types of customers, internal, external. Your internal departments are internal customers. So this is a time that they say thanks to each other, which again is a positive reinforcement thing that we want our people to be team players. Then we go to our principles. We should focus on doing perfect work. My band instructor used to say, practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. So they guess that, they have a debate, then we say, hey, give us an example of that. By the way, this is all being led by Doug still, right? Then we go to Deming's 14 points. Edward Demings is who we sent over to Japan after we nuked them twice, and then rebuilt their economy with him. So Edward Demings is basically why Japan is what they are today, because of this gentleman right here. And so create consistency of purpose towards blank, aim to become competitive, same business, provide jobs, cool. It's improvement of product and service. Again, Doug stepping through this. Continuing education. He picked some kind of continuing education that has to add value. I'm going to go through it. Core habits, right? We strive to use blank instead of blank from our customer's perspective. They guess pull versus push to lean, training and thought. Again, then Doug will ask people and they'll enter into a discussion. Why is Doug asking people to enter into discussion? So that's the 90%. And what else?
He's a teacher.
He's a teacher.
Trying to get to like 35, 40% of the discussion.
Bingo. Right now I'm asking you guys, so you guys' training is coming up to 30%, as opposed to retention of just talking at you with 10%. So this is all fundamental. It's all psychological bullshit. Owner's precepts, you are a blank. First, reduce waste.
Piece of shit.
I'll give you guys an example. It's a 4-letter word that starts with a C that I think about all the time.
If you knew Hugh as well as I do, you know he uses that word all the time.
Cost. And so then they enter in discussion, right? They're all costs of our companies. First reduce waste, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and then we finish with stretching. We end up with dashboard announcements. This is company-wide announcements. You'll notice that we've said nothing about work, nothing about anything site-related. Well, I guess Doug's improvements and whatnot. And then we say, let's go to work, and we break apart the battle plans. Each site does something completely different. That's when they actually have the dedicated time to talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. But what I wanted to point out, we're going to go back a little. This is Doug. Doug was treated like the bottom tier human being for large portions of his life. Does not have a high school degree or a GED. Doesn't have a driver's license. This gentleman has shot video, uploaded it to YouTube, conveyed complex ideas, created a PowerPoint presentation, uploaded all the stuff, then created the PowerPoint presentation, then the next morning stood in front of peers and then communicated those ideas as best he could while leading people. This happens every day, and it cycles through all of us in the company. How much better is Doug than he was a year ago? What will Doug do for the company? We had a gal,
His life.
but we have allowed Doug to reach self-actualization. And where's the only place he can get it? At work. In fact, if people leave, we encourage it, and then normally they'll want to come back almost immediately. So that's kind of the secret sauce behind the 2-second lean. It seems daunting to get started. It's not too bad. If you've never had employees, when you hire them on, they didn't know anything different. It's very easy to scale that way. But yeah, that was a great example. A great question, Craig.
So if you're growing a team to implement this, whether it's one person or a 10-person team, I mean, what do you tell someone that's new? Like, do you have templates? Like, how do you get this? Because I think that once the train's moving,
Yeah,
it doesn't stop.
correct.
But how do you get the train started?
So it's a lot of hand-holding. So we spend a lot of time, we as owners should spend tons and tons and tons of time, triple the time, quadruple the time, training someone to do something so they get it right. Then it might take 3 weeks for them to train them on a task. But if we get it right, we don't have to do it ever again. Forever, we make that time back. So there is some lean training that we have. I could probably share that. It may or may not make sense, but read the 2-second lean book. But the way it starts is we do 3 things. We do 3S time in the morning, followed by a morning meeting, followed by that. When there's 2 people, literally I had a team of 2 at one time. I gave the presentation one morning, and then the other person did. Then I gave it, and the other person did. Then I gave it, and the other person did. Okay, now we have about 15 employees. Now it cycles through the entire company. If you have, for instance, it's slightly different for a team of 60, then we might have department heads. Or, for instance, the team of 16,000 are broken up into groups of 5,000 because that's what their plant size is. And then, basically, the larger it gets, you have to tweak it a bit, but the goal is the same. You want to get everybody in the organization up to the 90%, and you want to have them trained to pull everybody into the 30%. By the way, Doug doesn't realize any of this is happening. Doug just thinks he's doing more routine. Actually, we talk to everybody, but our systems and processes are set up to engage in effectively psychology and social manipulation to train, develop people really well, and then make them the best person they can possibly be regardless. We had a gal named Anna. She drove 40 minutes south on her day off, showed up for our morning meeting on her day off just to be a part of the Gratefuls, or the Raven fan section, because she personally wanted to say thankful to somebody else, because that's how far apart our stuff is. That's like almost cult level, dedication that we had got inside of our company. Pretty wild. Yeah, read 2-second lean, I have a lot of that. Here's how agile the system is. If I, as the owner and leader of the company, decide that we're lacking somewhere, I go and update and modify the template. The only thing I am watching is how's my team responding, and do we need more work or less work? And then we modify it from there.
How many barriers you worked through as you were starting this up?
Depends. The barriers for an established team can be a huge pain in the ass. If you don't have a team, then employees have no idea that they just think it's always been like this. So it's way, way, way easier. And that's what I do professional. Companies will hire me to go consult for them at $20,000 a week to help these get started. Normally, I pay for myself on the first day, and they'll hire me for a second week. Really scales that quickly. What, Dave, on the drive saved you $78,000? Asking me a few questions.
Yeah, we talked about this for hours on Friday.
Pretty much everything you just told us is in that book, 2 seconds.
It's in the book 2 Second Lean. I've given you more information as to the why behind it. I'm going to write a book about 2 Second Lean. Kind of like going into the psychology of what's going on. Those of you who want to learn something, learn more about the psychology, there's a book called The Talent Code. The Talent Code breaks down to what is happening in our brains when you're learning something. So you guys probably often have a team, and you want that team to learn something so they can do that thing. So the Talent Code is a way that shows you like physiologically what is happening. And it compares to why Brazil often have so many of the great football players, or soccer players. And the Talent Code kind of, I'm going to mirror that and mush it all together for a why. But the book I'm going to write is going to be called Why You Failed 2 Second Lean, and how to fix it. Because most of the people have an excuse, right?
Do you know that guy? Do you know that guy? Is he your
Paul
guy?
Akers.
Paul Akers?
Yeah, Paul Akers is one of my personal mentors.
Okay.
Oh, he's who I asked. The Porsche guys, it was year 2000, right around there, you can Google it. Anything right around 2000 was dog shit for Porsche, so like 2004 and onward should be good for whatever that was. Okay, yeah. I couldn't remember who I was having the conversation with. So that's Paul Akers. He is $20,000 an hour. He consulted with the Ministry of Transportation in Kazakhstan, and he implemented their road work, their construction of their highways, and he took the time for it was like 6 to 8 months down to like 1 month or something. The biggest thing I've ever been able to do is take a cycle time from a process from 22 days down to 3 hours. That saves that company $7 million a year every year indefinitely. Not adjusted for inflation. So probably more now because that was like 2017. And I would read up on a 2 Second Lean. It's the simple way to do the big stuff. And if anyone wants help, I can come help. It's one of the things I want to do with the YouTube channel is teach entrepreneurs how to take control of their company, and then also, basically the same reason why you guys might be passionate about becoming financially independent, and I'm that way about.
Have you done like EOS or 40X or anything like that?
Right, that's a great question. So I think EOS is very good. It's very tactful. You can layer on, but it's so much that it's kind of overwhelming, especially if your team's a little bit smaller. But yeah, it's like the operating system, so it's not too bad. So the 2 Second Lean stuff, it layers on top of anything you know. Anybody know what an impact driver is? So the way I describe it is, you're the expert. You only knew how to use a screwdriver before. You're gonna build the house with a screwdriver. And then 2 Second Lean is an impact driver. You're still the one with the skill set. You still are putting screws in places, but suddenly you're far more efficient. It layers on top of anything that you already know, any and all systems, but it really targets the human aspect. Thanks.
What's your affiliate code, man?
I don't have one, I'm probably sure. I should ask Paul for one.
You should.
He's encouraged me to write The Lean Millionaire, which is, I developed a bunch of people because the byproduct of that was becoming a millionaire. But the Why You Fail at 2 Second Lean is so many people will listen to this, they'll try it for 3 months, you're gonna hit a brutal wall of monotony. If you already have teams, the turnover rate can be as high as 50%. Why would the turnover rate be that high? Okay, you changed. Anybody remember Good to Great? What was the example about it? A lot of people on the bottom. What happens is a lot of owners will be like, well shit, that guy worked for me for 30 years and he's the guy who knows everything. Well, first off, it's your fault that he could cripple your company. That's stupid. Or she. We had a guy who cut all the hoses on the plastic machine and fucked us up for like 200 grand. That was fun. Basically, it's getting the right people on the team. If all of us were working for a team where we're unified, probably those high tier people getting the good quality in your team. When Shelby's like, hey, I got a team of 60, we're going this direction. I'm not gonna tell you how to do it, so I'm saying we're going this direction. If all of us were in the room, we'd probably be like, cool, we're changing direction, and we're going this direction because we're on the team for the right reason. Sometimes people don't like that, they're on the team for different reasons. So it just depends, right? The age of the team really matters. If your team's old, very like that shouldn't apply to much of us.
What about like just being in real estate? So like, I'd say very uneducated people, things like that, or people that don't know how to use computers.
Right.
So we have like maintenance techs and stuff like that. Obviously, they're craving for something like this, but I can see this be overwhelming where they just quit.
Okay, so we are in real estate, our company, and almost all the employees that aren't the direct 3 people on the team, Jack didn't know how to use a phone. It was very, very bad. He used like Windows 98 was the last time he used a computer. Most of the team did that. You educate them, and then there's like a positive peer pressure cycle that happens, right? When that maintenance guy who has the right heart, right? If he has the heart, he's like, oh, I'm gonna do it. You're gonna work with me. I'm not gonna quit. We're gonna figure it out. It might take me a year. I don't care. You're gonna be like, I'll help you as long as you keep trying. So then, if that person quits because it's overwhelming, then that was probably someone that shouldn't have been on your team.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to hear for a lot of people because you're like, shit, that was my only maintenance guy. Ah, damn it, that was my only contractor I had. It was a nightmare to find contractors. Well, cool. We have a lean system of finding people for your teams, finding contractors for your teams, and then it breaks down the barriers. But everyone now engages in the 2-second presentation. So we've taught them computer skills, we've taught them internet skills, we've taught them video editing skills, and then if they ever leave, due to marriage or they move away, they get to bring that to whatever job they're at, and they'll be eternally thankful.
Mm-hmm.
So it just basically it kind of comes down to you're gonna have someone with bad attitude. You want to hire for attitude, you want to hire for character, you want to hire for cultural fit, and keep trainability and stuff. If you inherit them, that's when you have people jump ship. Anyone had someone quit a team, and you're like, damn, awesome, I'm great now. Thank God that person's not on the team. Okay, that's what that friction that they create just from being on that team. That's what happens. So like when that person's gone, I mean, it sucks if you have like really small teams and you're like, I just got this guy or whatever. Like, but it's really really impactful.
How do you work with having someone that has that negative mindset that obviously everyone's would want them out of the picture? Like, oh, thank God they're gone, but that person's still there.
Okay, so I think the question is we're going this direction, and then they don't want to be a part of it, and they're
okay, yeah, they don't want to be a part of it, but they're still going to be there.
Okay, so
Regardless.
when you as the organizational leader says we're going this direction, we're either going to do this or the door's over there, then you make it clear we're going down that path. Most leaders they lack the backbone to actually do that. Keep bending over, they'll keep doing whatever. You're going to say, we're going to do this until the day that we close our doors or else. That's just what we're going to do. Now, normally what happens is those people feel very uncomfortable because you've provided an extremely positive environment that has lots of positive feedback loops, that has lots of positive peer pressure, and then they're going to know that they're slacking on that, and they're just going to quit. And so I think we only had to fire one person, and I've collectively had 700 or 800 people work under me using the systems. And I had a lot of people leave that were bad fits. The reason why is because once the framework's there, and you have the backbone to say, this is the direction we're going. If you don't like it, go find somebody else who will pay you to not follow that organization structure. That's not here. We're going this way. So it's kind of that.
How do you handle the expectation feedback, like you talked about with the trash can? Because you built such a positive culture of like reinforcement.
That's a fantastic question. When almost everything that comes out of your mouth as the owner and also all your peers is positive, when you provide something negative, it does not hurt so bad. The guard for defensiveness is extremely low. We actually had to breed that out of, or work that out of Jack, because Jack, very, very defensive, like probably got treated like shit, a lot. And then so it took a few months. The problem with Jack, he was one of those guys, he sucked. But his heart was in it. He was determined to keep trying, and so because he kept trying, we kept him on the team. The moment he would have been like, "I'm not trying," and he sucks, like, "Hey, do you want this job, man?" Like, If you don't, then the doors were there. Or we would have forcibly removed them if we had to. So Jack was doing,
Great, don't worry.
you know the morning meeting improvement video? He was walking the apartment, and so like, okay, he's leading the meeting, it's the day of, blah, blah, blah. He's panning the video, oh, here's this, we got this room done. And then there's like a mirror right there, and he pans in front of the mirror showing us the bathroom. It's like, I don't know if he had pants on, but he didn't have a shirt on. He had a cigarette in his mouth, beer gut, it's like, you see we did the update to the bathroom there? He's like, so we all lost our shit. And they were like, Jack, I appreciate you doing that. There could have been, people in the hall.
Yeah.
Another thing, if you guys, anyone who wants, we're fully decentralized. If you want to pop in to see our meeting, engage with our folks, and see it run live, anyone can join the link. I'll send it out. Also, I don't tell any of the team if anyone's joining, because we should be inspection ready at all times. So anyone who wants to join, they can do that. They know if they botched it. We talk about it later. We make improvements and corrections so it doesn't happen again. But yeah, anyone that wants to join a morning meeting certainly can. What's the biggest thing that you didn't understand or
If you're spending, 4 days a week, Wednesdays off, and
Yes.
this is 30 minutes each morning, right? Isn't it like 90 minutes? It's like 30 minutes and a 30-minute meeting, then something.
Yep.
So that's 90 minutes
Yep.
every single day that they're working.
Yep.
At what point does your communication directly with them about their specific job, or review what they're working on? Like, what else are they, your interaction with them if you're spending 90 minutes a day doing this stuff? You know what I mean?
I think your question is, you're interacting with them 90 minutes a day. What else outside of that do I interact with them? Normally
Yeah.
during battle plans, I'll hang out if anyone has questions. That's like, hey, I gotta coordinate a plumber, I gotta make this decision, what do you need me to do? So we actually talk specifics, but then they actually take it and run with it from there.
Okay. Do you ever do like one-on-ones about their job performance and sustains, improves, that sort of thing about like their direct work as opposed to, which I love all this.
If we see something lacking, we will. If we see something positive, we won't. Or generally, if we see something lacking, we will. If it's good on the course, if someone did something stupendous, then we'll kind of work with them. We have a quarterly feedback, but there's so much continuous feedback all day, every day, continuously. And then if something happens, like we notice it, like Jack with the shirt or whatever, then we'll positively praise and then immediately pull them aside privately and make a corrective course action. They know, there's no like we tell them quarterly, but like they already knew what all the information was because there's so much communication.
And they knew their job coming in. Like Jack has been working this job, so it's not like you had to set aside 90 minutes and then the training time and all.
We actually
No.
fired Jack from the hotel, moved him over to the motel
Yeah.
within a month.
So
Because we won't say it was because of how he looked at work.
No,
but-
motel works better for
But we,
Jack.
but we were definitely like, Jack is
The
way
motel.
better over
Yeah.
here.
Jack's
Yeah.
great with no employees under him. Okay, so the answer is all of our employees are process engineers, period. Their task focus might be something different, but if we need to retrain someone, we can pull someone because it's more important than the critical thinking skills and ability. Specifically to do a job, it would be like hands-on training, like, hey, you have to know the specifics of how to do this thing. That's job specific and job related. And then I would, for instance, there's the thing. I spend most of my day training 3 to 5 people. You should never have direct reports under or above 3, really 5. But 3 to 5 is the best. I train and develop them, and then they have people beneath them that have a team of 3 to 5 to train. When it trickles down to the lowest tier, actually the highest tier, because they're the only people that are providing value to your end customer, we have them train each other for practice. But if someone sucks or is lacking at a job and they're 2 or 3 tiers below me, that's not my responsibility to fix that problem. I shouldn't have to work to do that because the system is broken. So it's my job as the leader to hold the standard. I'm the owner. It is ultimately my fault. But what I'll do is I will say, hey, you know how Jim sucks? Or Jim's lacking in this area, whatever. I'm being crass just because it's funny. Then I'll say, hey, we're gonna work with you. I will then work with that person's leader to re-watch them train. And I will then do that. So basically we'll backtrack it to see where something broke, right? Because it happens all the time. Like, we're not perfect, far from it. But the system and processes is, hey, you know how this person told the customer this? Yeah, what in the hell? I'm sure that's never happened in any of your companies. Then what we do is we do a knowledge check and we figure out the person who trained them, what is their understanding? Hey, you know, I know Sally did this. Can you tell me what she was supposed to do? Right? And then so now all of a sudden we figure out, does the trainer even understand? Because now it's a process issue. So then we might do retraining all the way through. And so we do these course corrections all the time. I pick the 3S focus of the week and we basically kind of go off of that. Or if it's site specific, then we'll go over in battle plans, because some things the hotel, we spend a lot of time at the hotel, but like the other sites don't need to be worried about what the laundry room is doing in the hotel. And so it's kind of like where did the misinformation happen, and then recorrecting it back. The more time you can spend making sure that everyone in your team is a great trainer, the more they'll know the knowledge and material. And then if we find a lack of knowledge, we will have that person retrain. So we have the worst people at that thing teach that thing until they are perfect at it. It normally takes like twice, and then they completely understand it. Great example. Mark the Cabinets hired me to go to Chicago. They are Russians, and there's companies either half Russian or half Mexican. We implemented 2-second lean. They did morning meetings. The Mexicans did the morning meeting in Spanish. It was then translated by a Dutch guy into English, then translated into Russian. And then vice versa on other days. They would not do it. They were like, oh my God, this is... And then so the owner, who was Russian, was like, I will replace you tomorrow if you don't do this. So he's like, okay, we'll do it. All right, so like, once they got over the initial 1 or 2 things, like they figured it out. But the important thing was that about a month into the process, they had a bunch of people cycling through. It didn't matter that execution was garbage. What mattered was that they had people cycling through in training, so they actually were in the 90% and fundamentally understand what you want them to understand. So if you have any issues in your company, then you need to have them train that. If it's department specific, then don't waste the company's time. Have the department issue continuously train inside that department. And then whoever's creating the problem, have them train it until they no longer have that. But often we'll find that I didn't communicate something properly to someone under me, who then continued to not communicate it properly down the chain. So that was oh, cool. No harm, no foul. That's my fault. I'm sorry. We're going to retrain that.